American World Airways, Pan Am, the airline that invented international travel, the airline that flew presidents, flew movie stars, the airline whose terminal at JFK was so beautiful it is now a hotel lobby. On December 4th, 1991, Pan Am Flight 436, the last flight ever, landed in Miami. The crew wept, the passengers wept, the ground crew wept, and then the most famous airline in human history simply ceased to exist. This is the forensic autopsy of an American icon. Hello, I'm Todd Hagopian, the original Stagnation Assassin. Today we're opening the vault on Pan Am's 1991 liquidation, and we're going to perform a full forensic autopsy on what killed the airline that once owned the sky. This wasn't murder. This was a long, slow, agonizing stagnation suicide. The stagnation score here, by the mid 1980s, Pan Am was already a corporate cadaver walking upright. The airline was bleeding cash. It had sold its headquarters building, the iconic Pan Am building on Park Avenue, in 1981. It sold its Pacific routes to United in 1985. It sold its London Heathrow routes, its crown jewel, to Delta. Pan Am was performing a fire sale in slow motion, selling off profitable body parts while the core business rotted out. Stagnation score here 10 out of 10. Maximum corporate cancer, every vital organ failing simultaneously. This is a company that went from defining an industry to desperately selling its furniture just to keep the lights on. Let's look at the tactical audit. Let's dissect this corporate cadaver and identify every profit parasite that killed it. The 80-20 matrix, fatally inverted. Pan Am was an international airline trapped in a deregulated domestic market. After the Airline Deregulation Act of 1978, Pan Am tried to compete domestically by acquiring national airlines in 1980 for about $400 million. This was catastrophic. National's domestic routes were the vampire many low margin, high competition routes where Pan Am had no competitive advantage, no brand recognition, and no operational expertise. Meanwhile, Pan Am's international routes, the vital few that actually generated premium revenue and margin, were being neglected and eventually sold off. They bought what they didn't need and they sold what they couldn't replace. That's not a strategy. That's self-inflicted amputation. Complete failure at every critical junction. Pan Am failed to assess, they failed to attack, and they failed to advance. Leadership refused to honestly evaluate the existential threat of deregulation. They believed Pan Am, the brand, would carry them through any competitive storm, but it didn't. When problems emerged, the response was always sell something rather than fix something. Sell the building, sell the routes, sell the shuttle. Every sale weakened the airline further without addressing the underlying operational dysfunction. Pan Am never advanced into a viable competitive position. They never became a low-cost carrier. They never became a focused international premium carrier. They never became anything other than a shrinking version of what they used to be. And then came Lockerbie. December 21, 1988, Pan Am Flight 103, 270 people killed. The bombing devastated the airline financially and psychologically. Bookings plummeted, insurance costs skyrocketed. The brand, once synonymous with glamorous travel, became associated with tragedy. The hindsight homicide is straightforward. Pan Am should have never tried to become a domestic airline. If leadership had applied orthodoxy smashing innovation, destroying the sacred cow that said an airline must serve all markets, they could have doubled down on international premium routes and become the world's luxury airline. Own transatlantic, trans-Pacific, intercontinental travel the way the Singapore Airlines and Emirates eventually would. Instead, Pan Am diluted its brand, they wasted their capital, and they destroyed their most competitive moat by chasing a domestic market that didn't want them. The alternative scenario is painful to consider. A focused premium Pan Am operating international routes with modernized fleets could have been what Emirates became, a $30 billion enterprise built on the same foundation that Pan Am abandoned. They had the brand, they had the routes, they had the legacy, but they threw it all away, chasing domestic pennies while international dollars blew away. Pan Am's liquidation is one of the most tragic cases in American business history, not because it was unavoidable, but because it was entirely avoidable. Every wrong decision was a choice. Every asset sale was a surrender. Every year of inaction was a year of compounding decay. Kill rating here, 1 out of 5 kills. 1 kill, the absolute minimum. And that single kill is only for the legacy, for proving that international commercial aviation was viable, for creating the template that every airline since then has followed. The execution in the final 2 decades was an unmitigated disaster. A corporate cadaver that spent 15 years refusing to acknowledge that it was already dead. If you want to learn how to avoid the Pan Am death spiral, go to todagopian.com and stagnationassassins.com for the world's largest stagnation database, and pick up my book, The Unfair Advantage, Weaponizing the Hypomanic Toolbox. And remember, continue to declare war on stagnation with us here every single week.